Thanks, guys. Good morning, everybody. I want to say welcome to you. Happy Thanksgiving weekend to you as well. If you're a guest with us today, I want to say welcome to you. Really glad you're here. Hoping that today is a good experience for you. We want you to worship God authentically and learn a bit about Him. I'm going to open the Bible up here in a little bit, and we're going to talk about it. The series that we're in is called Fuel, and what we're doing here is saying, look, God doesn't need anything from us. He's going to work out His program with or without us. The gospel is just fine. It's rolling. But mysteriously and wonderfully, God invites us into the process of the kingdom of God expanding and growing in our midst. And so what we're doing with this series is we're just throwing fuel on that fire. Fire's already burning, but He invites all of us with our resources, with our time, our treasure, and our talents to throw fuel on that fire. And so that's what we're working on together in this series. What we're doing is just taking a look at a few passages in 2 Corinthians, seeing what it really means to be a follower of Jesus and what His church is really supposed to be about. And so that's what we're working on. In the midst of that, we're raising money together, and we're raising money for a bunch of ministries that we're doing around here together as a church at all of our campuses. And we talk about that stuff in detail at those vision gatherings. So been putting this in front of you every week. Would you make sure you get signed up for one of those vision gatherings? That way I can talk about it in detail that I can in a setting like this one. So I need you to come to one of those. Make sure you get signed up in the lobby today, if you would, please. Today what we're going to talk about is internal combustion, because I'm a motorhead, which is not true. I'm a motorhead poser, where I have an engine block up here, and I don't know how it works. But I can tell motorhead jokes, like this one. So a motorhead goes into a restaurant to have some breakfast. Server comes up to him and says, "Can I take your order?" And the server's kind of new. He's not used to a lot of this, because the mechanic, this motorhead guy, says to him, yeah, I'd like 3 flat tires and a couple of headlights. The server's like, I don't know what that is, but he writes it down and goes back into the kitchen and says, hey, I don't know if this guy's in the wrong restaurant or what, but he just asked for 3 flat tires and a couple of headlights. And the cook goes, oh, he's asking for 3 pancakes and 2 eggs sunny side up. Oh, okay. A couple of minutes later, server walks out and hands the guy a bowl full of beans. Motorhead goes, I didn't order this. He goes, yeah, but the cook thought that while you're waiting for your parts, you might as well gas up. That's a good joke, just so you know. Okay, I don't know. What do you mean? You're what? Okay, you come up here and tell one. No? Okay, we'll use mine then today. Yes, you do. Okay, so my friend Dave, now he knows motors. Will you welcome Dave to the stage, please? Because Dave and I are going to talk motors. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Vern.
Say hi to the people.
Hi, people.
They're very nice. Okay, Dave, we are looking at what right here?
302.
Okay.
302 block.
A 302 block. What's the 302 all about? Like, what do you mean, what's 302?
302 cubic inches of displacement.
Yeah, the displacement. Okay, so this is the engine block. This is like the artichoke heart.
Skeleton.
The skeleton.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything is going to kind of come off of this deal. Like if the motor's going to run, if the car's going to roll, this thing's got to be working.
Correct. Yes.
By the way, this one's broken, I understand.
It is broken.
Did you break it?
I did not.
All right. Okay, so in the internal combustion engine, there are 4 major components, which is what I'm going to talk about today.
All right.
If I can get them right there. Intake, compression, combustion. You use another term.
Ignition.
Ignition, same deal.
Yes.
Ignition makes combustion.
Correct.
And what's the last one?
Exhaust.
Exhaust. Okay. So let's talk about how those work in this. Where's the intake happen and what's being intaken?
Okay.
Where's the top of the motor, by the way?
Right here.
Okay, good. It's the top. How many of you knew this was the top? Uh-huh. All right. All the girls
All the
knew it
girls
was
did.
the top. How funny.
It's great.
Okay, so intake is,
So we're intaking air and fuel
all right,
into a cylinder.
yep. And there's how many cylinders in this?
8.
Making it an 8-cylinder.
Yes.
Okay, good. See? Yeah, thanks. I know motors. The reason this is called a cylinder is because it's cylindrical. Good. All right, let's keep
Ah,
going.
Okay. All right.
All right, so air and fuel goes in,
Yes.
comes in from a carburetor, a fuel injection, or something like this. It comes in a port. There's a hole or something that it gets in there.
Right. A valve
A
opens.
valve.
Yes.
Okay, it opens. Okay. Now we've got it in there, and then what happens?
It gets compressed.
Okay, how?
The piston pushes it to the top of the cylinder.
Okay, so the piston is.
It's actually up here right now.
Okay, so here we have, and if I turn that, then the piston, you can't see this, but I can. It's going up and down. Of course, if we spun the deal, they'd see it. Piston. Okay, can you see it? Can you see it, Mom? Okay, good. All right, so piston is, it's decreasing the amount of space, but there's the same amount of stuff in there, and so it's compression. It's under pressure.
Right.
It's like whip topping in a can.
Sort of, yes.
Huh? Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that people understand, like, because you all know whip topping in a can. Okay, so there's compression. Then what happens? Ignition.
Ignition.
Boom.
Boom.
An explosion.
Yes.
From a spark.
Usually from a spark plug. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so there's the explosion, and now the explosion is going to make some movement, some action,
Right.
which pushes.
Pushes down on a crankshaft.
Okay.
Spinning. It's attached to
Is the piston attached to the crankshaft?
It is.
Okay. And then the crankshaft, there must be a timing deal where there's booming going on, and pistons moving up and down.
Yeah, they're in a sequence.
Crankshaft is going, turning something.
Yes.
What?
Turning a flywheel, a torque converter,
Which then does what?
turns gears in a transmission,
Then that goes to,
usually a driveline,
that then goes to,
a differential,
that then goes to,
wheels and tires.
and now we get a car rolling.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Sometimes I have to push my car. It's not the motor. Well, I'm the motor then.
Right.
I'm combusting. Okay. All right, in the midst, okay, so then we're rolling, but we also have exhaust. So because there's something, when there's an explosion, there's always what, waste or something coming off.
Byproducts waste.
Byproduct, yeah, and those go out a hole somewhere.
Usually out of exhaust system, a manifold.
Uh-huh. And out the back or the top if you have a stack.
Right.
Stacks are cool.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that's the internal combustion motor. Now, why do you know about this stuff? Why are you good at this?
My father was good at it, and he taught me all he knew.
Do you do this for a career?
I do not.
So you're a motorhead by hobby,
Yes,
all right? And my understanding is you drive a race car.
I do.
Okay, what kind of car is it?
It's a dirt track car.
Yeah. And are you any good?
No.
Okay, but you have a lot of fun racing. You race every summer.
Right.
Yeah. And hey, can I drive that race car?
No.
See, that's not the right answer. I think the answer should be yes, you can drive it, Pastor Vern.
You just said you push your car.
Well, that's true. Okay. That's a good point. Okay, now, so you're an enthusiast, it's a hobby, you're a motorhead, you drive race cars. You also use your talents to serve the Lord in a particular ministry. What is that?
That is Harvest Car Care.
Okay, so let's tell these guys about the car care ministry. What do you guys do?
We refurbish donated cars, give them away to folks in need. We repair vehicles for people that need repairs on their cars.
So, what's the criteria? Like, who gets a car if they don't have a car? How do they get one?
They talk to Suzanne here at Harvest.
Okay, so she's on our staff in our benevolence ministry. So
Yes.
she sort of vets, she takes applications from people.
She does.
Okay, and then there's some criteria on who needs a car, particularly, I suppose. And,
Right, there is.
and then when she figures out, like, yep, here's a person that needs a car, you guys have cars ready to go?
Hopefully.
Okay. And so where do you get those cars again?
They're donated to us.
Okay. And then, so somebody, in other words, is going to go, I'm not going to trade this car in on a new rig. I'm going to just give this to Car Care. They're going to fix it up, make sure going to fix it up, make sure it's rolling,
Right.
becomes real dependable,
Yes.
and give it to people that are in need.
Right.
Okay. Why do you do this?
Years ago, I had a great shop at the house, and I wanted to use it for other than my own little projects. I wanted to give back, I guess.
Way for you to serve and.
Right.
And so right now you guys have it's kind of regular. Like you guys are on this maybe weekly. You're working on cars,
Yeah, one night a week.
and a couple of crews of guys.
Yeah, we've got 2 teams working at Lockwood.
Yeah, okay, Lockwood. So at our Lockwood campus, we have a shop, and that's where you guys do the work
Yes,
rather than your garage.
right.
So we kind of moved everything into that shop, and pretty productive.
It is.
Yeah. Do you know how many cars we give away in like a year?
I really don't, actually.
Yeah. All right. I think it was, is it 30 some cars in the last year or something like that we gave away? So I think I'm looking for some confirmation, but yeah, that's a good deal.
Good deal.
Now, we could do more,
We
is
could.
my understanding.
Yes,
In
we
other
could.
words, we have more people that need cars than we have cars.
That's correct.
All right, let's talk about what the needs are of car care. This is a commercial now. I'm giving them an opportunity. What are the needs for car care right now?
We need team leaders,
All right, team leader, what's that mean?
a guy that oversees a bunch of guys working an evening or whenever to fix a car.
Do we need more people working on rigs?
If we have more team leaders, we need more people.
Okay, so if we have enough leaders, then we can put more guys to work.
Yes.
Do you have to be a great mechanic to be on one of your teams?
No.
Could be a guy like me.
Yes.
There was an imperceptible pause. Did you see that? But if he says yes to me, then he could say yes to you as well. So, in other words, you're willing to have guys learn as you're going,
We'd
or
love,
gals.
love to have that.
Okay, but we could use a few people that rise up. They don't have to be great mechanics, these team leaders. They just got to manage some people, make a few decisions, rally some folks, be
Yes.
in there on, okay.
Right.
So you need, like, people, leader, groups of guys. You'd like to see this shop humming every day of the week,
Yeah, I would.
because we actually could do that if we had enough workers and enough cars.
Yes.
Let's talk about cars. Do we need more cars?
We do need more cars.
Okay, so how does somebody give a car if they want to give a car?
They would call Suzanne in Benevolence. and
Okay.
She would take care of that.
All right, so that's pretty easy. Got a car, ready to give the car. It's a couple of phone calls and they're done.
Yes.
We got the car. Okay, good. Don't steal a car and give it. We need a title. Okay. Let's see, what else do you need?
Toilet.
Pardon?
A toilet?
A toilet.
We need running water and a toilet at
Oh, okay.
at the
Yeah,
Lockwood
that's
facility.
I thought maybe you were going to make like a car out of a toilet. I was
No.
pretty excited about that. Okay, so what he's saying is that the shop at the Lockwood campus does not have bathroom facilities in it, and so, it's awkward.
It is
Like the
awkward.
neighbors they're irritated. So we gotta, so children, they play in the grass. We don't, okay, so, yeah, right. So we need a plumber actually to put in a toilet. That'd be great. Okay, what else do you need?
We're hardware.
What do you mean hardware?
Bolts, nuts, washers.
So if people have buckets of bolts around their house, I'm not talking about their wife, just like bucket of bolts around their
Right.
house, then they bring, what? Then they bring that to, come on, it's
Yes.
funny. Okay, all right, you're right. Apologies, no emails, just, okay, so, let's not get lost in this. Bucket of bolts. You need nuts and screws and bolts and washers and things.
Yes.
Okay, how about tools?
Can't have too many tools.
Yeah. So there's a lot of guys at Harvest Church with great tools that they never use, and they could donate them to car care ministry.
Right.
Good. And then what else do we need?
Storage for these cars.
Okay, so yeah, a car on blocks in your front yard, your wife's like, no more.
Right.
Okay, so we can only store a few out at the Lockwood campus, and so if you could put a car in your garage or something like that for a couple of weeks, and it doesn't take too long to turn them around, right?
Right.
In other words, somebody doesn't have to hang on to a car for 6 months.
No.
You guys will get it in and get it out.
Yes.
Okay. All right, what else?
I think that's it.
All right, what's this again?
Engine block.
Thanks. All right. Thanks, Dave, for coming out and sharing with us. Good job, Dave.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so it's a really cool ministry. You can see there's lots of ways to be a part of it. Hey, thanks, Mike. Thank Mike. That's Mike. Turn in your Bibles, please, to 2 Corinthians. And let's get going on the message that we have today from the scriptures. 2 Corinthians chapter 4. You'll notice in your notes, you can follow along with me. And there you'll notice, by the way, that I am just working through the 4 components of the internal combustion motor. That's kind of our outline. And then we'll see some movement coming out of it, okay? Internal combustion of the gospel roars to life and moves the church forward. This is my expectation for us. And let's take a look at it now in detail. Verse 7. This is what we spent an entire last weekend on this verse. And so we're just going to jump off of it today, but here we see intake. We have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. So here we have this mixture then, not of fuel and air, but of clay and treasure. Spent a whole service on this last weekend talking about how the power of God, the gospel, is housed in, surprisingly, jars of clay. That's us. So this mixture of weakness and power, demonstrating that the power that moves this thing forward is from God and not from us. Okay, so you've got all that, and it comes under pressure, under some compression. Verse 8, a couple of verses here. We'll spend considerable time on these ones. Notice the couplets. This is beautiful writing. It says, we are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. So here's the compression. What we're talking about is suffering. Going through hardship and difficulty and distress, something bad, something unpleasant. It probably happened even for you in the last couple of days. Let's put it this way. How many of you at some time in your life have suffered somewhere along the way? Just put a hand up in the air if you've ever suffered. Okay. Now, how many of you would say that everything going on in and around your world currently is perfect? Everything's just perfect. Can I have a hand on that one? Yeah. Okay. So here's this deal of like, it's the human experience that nothing is perfect at any time down here, and sometimes it gets considerably worse, like this poor guy. Right? Where we all experience some measure of difficulty and hardship and suffering and distress. Bad stuff happens to every single one of us. It's a universal experience. If you and I have anything in common, it would just simply be that things aren't perfect in our lives. Paul describes this kind of suffering, and he exhorts us to bend. Go ahead and bend, he says, but don't break. He admits that we suffer some things, but then he urges that we don't give up or give in. And so what I want to do is just take a little closer look at these couplets because it's cool. Okay, so back into these couple of verses. Here's the first couplet. Hard pressed but not crushed. Hard pressed but not crushed. Hard pressed. The word he's using here is the word that they would use to talk about like treading on grapes or threshing grain, squashing something. He says we are squashed. We are hard-pressed on every side. We have days when sort of everything goes wrong, and we're hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed. The word here means to be in a circumstance with no way out. You don't end up like that. So yeah, hard-pressed. There's some hard things going on. Yep. But you're not crushed in such a manner. There is no such circumstance that there is no way out. There's always a way out, like you just sang a little bit ago, that nothing can stand against us. There's always a way out. Hard pressed, but not crushed. Then he says, perplexed, but not in despair. Perplexed, confused, doubtful and uncertain, to be at a loss. Have you ever asked the question, not just like, what is this, but why is this? Why is this happening? God, why are you allowing this in my life? It's a normal, reasonable question. Perplexed. I'm confused about this, God. It's totally understandable. Confused. But I'm not in despair. I'm not giving up hope. Not giving up. Going through a bad season, a little confused about it, but not giving up hope. It's actually a Greek wordplay here that says at a loss, but never totally at a loss. It means bewildered, but never at our wits' end. It's asking the question why, which you can ask the question why, but not throwing in the towel and not giving up hope. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Persecuted means to pursue and harass somebody because of their beliefs. It is related to the word prosecuted, which means to go after somebody with repeated acts of opposition and hostility. Persecuted. Because of what I believe, something I'm taking a stand for, there is some opposition against me. This is what Paul says happens if you follow Jesus. But not abandoned, not deserted, not left behind, meaning that God has not abandoned you, and he won't abandon you. There are days when you feel like, am I just going to run out of friends? And then you realize, Jesus says, I'm not going to leave you, I'm not going to forsake you. yet you feel persecuted, even by people close to you, but I'm not abandoning you. Then struck down but not destroyed. Struck down to throw down or knock down and hurt badly. This is physical, but it's also emotional, and he's referring to both things there. You could be physically struck down. You can be emotionally struck down. Like, I've just had it. I'm depressed. I'm worn out here. I'm giving in. Struck down, but not destroyed. There's always this glimmer. There's always this potential for growth, even out of the cracks of our lives. Struck down, but not destroyed. Knocked to the ground, but not permanently grounded. Here's the way we typically say it with each other. Knocked down, but not knocked out. And this is the stuff of Hollywood lore. Knocked down, not knocked out, gonna get back up, gonna be victorious. Okay, these couplets, these contrasts underscore that during the difficult days that we experience, it is endurance and perseverance in the midst of adversity, not immediate miraculous deliverance from it, that reveals most profoundly the power of God. Let me say that sentence to you again, it's important. The couplets that he gives us here, these contrasts, underscore that during our difficult days, it's endurance and perseverance through the adversity, not immediate and miraculous deliverance from it, that reveals most profoundly the power of God in your life. Stop asking to be delivered from it and just receive the endurance that God is giving you. That's where he is showing you his power. He wants you going through it because he's doing something even beyond your wildest imagination in your life and out of your life because it. Now, let's acknowledge that suffering is relative. Right? You suffer, other people suffer. We get into trouble when we compare our lives to other people's and compare up. It would be wiser to compare down, to acknowledge that somebody's got it worse than you in some way. And when you compare yourself to the Apostle Paul, I worked you through the stuff he went through last weekend. Then you have to just honestly look back and go, I've never even had a bad day compared to that. And yet every day, things are not what we would hope them to be, what we would wish them to be. Sometimes it's irritating. Sometimes it's downright brutal. Every day, things aren't quite like we want them to be, so we are all experiencing compression at different times with varying degrees of intensity. But life is lived under pressure. This is the life you live in. You live in compression constantly. And what God is doing even right now to you today is he's saying, don't waste that pressure. Don't waste the compression. God is going to do something beautifully with the pressure that you're under. He's saying, let's use it for good. Verse 10, we always carry around in our body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be revealed in our body. Here's our combustion. So we have the intake of the gospel. We have the compression of the hard things of life, but then that compression becomes very useful when there is combustion, because compression is just compression without a spark. Suffering is just suffering without a spark. Staying under pressure is unsustainable. You'll get crushed, but if there's a spark, then there's this fire and this ignition, and that ignition is the death and the life of Christ in you. You carry that death around. Interesting, the word that Paul's using here, where we are translating it carry around, he's using the word pallbearer. That's where we get our English term pallbearer. How many of you have been a pallbearer at a funeral? Can I see hands? Okay, lots of us, right? Carrying the casket, carrying around the dead body. And what Paul's doing here is going, I'm a pallbearer. I carry around the dead body of Jesus, and he expects us to do the same thing, which is why you'll notice in the verse he uses the word we. We always carry. Everywhere you go, you carry around the death of Christ. It's very interesting, I think, because he's referring to that death is a process and not an event. He's referring to the sufferings and the hardships and the illnesses and the persecutions that come from living life on this planet as a Christian. And this is what God is calling us to do. To be pallbearers, carrying around the graphic death of Jesus wherever we go. Identifying with Jesus' death and suffering by willing to sacrifice and suffer even ourselves. And frankly, this is my dream for our church. I'd love us to be a church full of pallbearers. Just a church full of pallbearers carrying around the dead body of Jesus everywhere we go. Well, why do I say that? Because of the second part of the verse. Look at the second part. So that the life of Jesus may also be revealed. So we're carrying around Jesus' death. We're carrying around suffering so that Jesus' life will be revealed out of our lives so that we have life and give life and live life. This is the spark. This is what keeps compression from just being painful compression. This is the spark of the death and life of Jesus, igniting the gospel in jars of clay under the compression of suffering, and the result is a beautiful explosion of maturity and fruitfulness and a display of God's glory. It's no wonder, by the way, that where the church is under the most persecution, the church is the most effective in growing. Places like North Korea, where it's a crime to be a Christian. And Christians are persecuted every day. Christians are killed every day in North Korea. You just don't hear about it. But what you also don't hear about is how powerfully effective and healthy the underground church is in places where there's intense persecution. And so there's this compression of the hard stuff of life, but then this spark where we realize, well, the hard stuff we're experiencing is nothing compared to the hard stuff Jesus experienced when he hung on a cross for me. And so I have his death in my life now so that I can live his life and give that life to others. And then that sort of combustion, that explosion of glory, does produce some exhaust, which is to your advantage. Look at the end, all of verse 11. For we who are alive are always being given over to death for Jesus' sake. So you're always in some measure of suffering or persecution or whatever it is, so that his life may be revealed in our mortal body. So when we are given over to death, when we have suffering and persecution, when we are sacrificing, when it's happening, especially, by the way, because you're following Jesus. So you're being graceful, you're being moral, you're being self-denying, you're doing the right thing at work, even though the wrong thing might get you a little bit ahead, when you're being generous, when that is costly, then Jesus is revealed in our weakness, in our clay pot. And this is what we want. We want Jesus in his way and his life to be revealed coming out of our lives. So it's the idea of less of me, more of him. Less of me, meaning this exhaust of impurities and immaturity is now coming out of my life. So impurities and immaturity get burned off, revealing the purity of Jesus' life lived through you. And this, my friends, is one of the great things about suffering. This is why suffering is such a useful part of the Christian experience, is that it burns off immaturities and impurities. So suffering, sacrifice is purifying. Suffering and sacrifice is maturing. You cling to God in deeper ways when you're going through that stuff. And your priorities now begin to align with God rather than with your own self. So the Apostle Peter, who knows a little bit about suffering, wrote about this. He used just a different metaphor. I'm using a motor. He used precious metals. Look at 1 Peter 1. In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief and all kinds of trials. So there's still rejoicing going on in your life, even though there's suffering. These sufferings, these trials, have come so that your faith, which is of greater worth than gold, which is worth a lot, and that gold perishes though refined by fire. So what he's doing is going, look, when you refine gold, you heat it up, and then the impurities are scraped off. So that's how we make it even that much more pure. But then he's going, but even at the end of the day, the gold isn't going to matter. It's going to burn up anyway. And so your faith is worth even more than that. And so it may be proved, end of the verse now, genuine and may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. So, that genuine deal. Your faith in Christ becomes that much more authentic and genuine when you endure suffering and come through it with some measure of dignity as you are trusting God for his plan for your life through that suffering, as impurities and immaturities are blown out the back. This is what fire does. This is what difficulty does. It refines us. Now, here's one of the cool things about this. It takes some courage. This isn't for somebody who's pursuing comfort with their life, who has a version of Christianity that is soft and inauthentic. But if you want it to be legit, you actually get to create such an explosive environment. In other words, you don't have to wait for it to happen to you. You can create combustion. So there's stuff that happens to your life all the time. It's happening to you. There's not much you can do about that. Like, some of it just comes out of the blue. But there are things that you can do that actually create the environment where there is a combustion of growth in you and the impurities and immaturities are blown out the back. And you do that by making self-denying decisions. You do it by being selfless. You do it by being self-sacrificing. You do it by serving other people rather than yourselves. You do it by being generous, spending money on others rather than yourself. You do it by denying your internal inclination towards selfishness, which you need to fight every day, that internal inclination towards selfishness, materialism, and greed. When you make those kinds of self-denying decisions, you've put yourself in an uncomfortable place, which just increases a bit of the compression, but then makes the death and life of Jesus that much more real and effective in your life. This is about your core. This is about your heart. Suffering with the gospel produces some exhaust, and these immaturities are burned out of our life, and we grow closer to Christ, and his life-changing life is revealed in us and revealed in our church. I love that you could make a decision today to have this happen in and around your life. Okay, so here's where we are so far. Intake, gospel in jars of clay, power of God in just failing humans. Compression, the suffering, difficulty, pain, trouble, irritations, persecutions that we all experience in some way or another at different times and different intensities. Compression. And I'm arguing you can create some compression by making the kind of decisions that Jesus would make. And then there's the combustion, where when you do something that's a bit uncomfortable, you are identifying just a little bit with Jesus' death, but his death even works that much more powerfully in you so that you live his life and the world sees the life of Jesus. And as that's happening, there's this exhaust coming off of your life. Impurities are coming out as Christ is living in you. And when that happens, the motor gets running, and look what it does. There's some movement. Verse 12, so then death is at work in us, but life is at work in you. Here's the movement now, where life goes to work in other people. And now we're kind of getting at the core of what it's really to be a Christian. Suffering in us, ignited by Christ, produces work. The motor works, life works, blessing works in people's lives. See, Paul was saying to the Corinthian people, he was going, look, I suffer on your behalf, and it's worth it. I am glad to do this. I'm happy for you. I love you. This is the right thing to do. I'm happy to suffer and sacrifice on your behalf. Now, God's going to reward him for it. We're going to see that actually in a couple of weeks. But this is the kind of thing I'm asking from our whole church. That we will be sacrificial people. That we will voluntarily, quote unquote, suffer. So that Jesus will then be at work in families and parents and children, that the life of Jesus will be at work in worshipers and in the spiritually curious in our region, that life will be at work at all of our campuses with facilities and programs that please God, and that will reveal that there's this death of Christ for us, for sin, that gives us life, and then his life begins working its way to other people as we live life as though Jesus were living through us. People that you haven't even met yet, that you're making self-denying, self-sacrificing decisions because you are loving people that you don't even know yet and maybe will never meet. And to this end we labor. This is what Colossians says. To this end I labor, struggling with all his energy. Love this. Struggling, yep, it's a struggle, but with his energy. Whose energy? It's God's. So we struggle, but the energy and the power comes from God. It's an energy that so powerfully works in us. So maybe this Thanksgiving weekend, there's a bit of a paradigm shift for you. I just challenge you in that. Maybe you should stop praying that God relieves your suffering. Maybe you should stop lamenting that God keeps expecting you to sacrifice. Maybe you should stop striving so hard for comfort. Maybe you should pray that you appreciate and even celebrate that in suffering and sacrifice that you in a slight way identify with Jesus' suffering and his death for you, and therefore you begin living life in such a way that Jesus' life is revealed in your mortal body. That's where the action is. As you live life as though Jesus were living through you and he was sacrificial. Judy moved to Billings about a year ago now. She experienced some level of loss and difficulty, the kind of stuff that when you compare yourself to her, you go, I've just never had a bad day. So significant was it that she felt like she needed a clean break, so she moved out of state to Billings with her daughter. She came here, she didn't have any transportation, and it was hard to provide for herself and her daughter because she wasn't able to get around, but she did get a job, and she rode the bus every day to work. Some stuff changed at work after a few months, and she lost that job, and so she was in the process of finding another one. She was at a restaurant, got in a conversation with a guy, and she mentioned that she didn't have transportation, she had car issues, and he goes, you know, that Harvest Church, they apparently have a ministry, something where they help people with cars. Right after that, she is on a bus heading to a job interview, and she talks to a lady who's on her way to Harvest to celebrate recovery on a Friday. And so she had two interactions with Harvest right close to each other, and so she thought, okay. She got a hold of us and asked if maybe we could help. She filled out an application, interacted a bit with Suzanne, and just shortly after that, she had a car. She drove that car to an interview. She now has a full-time job. She can drive to work, and she's able to resource her daughter, help her daughter, because she's got transportation. She talks a little bit about what this means to her. Take a listen to what she says on the screens.
Just recently receiving the car from Car Care and from Harvest Church. People in my family just go, wow, that's a blessing. Yes, God wants to bless us. And I do feel truly blessed. Just knowing that I can go get from back and forth to work and feel safe. And one other good thing is I get to hear my K-Love and I don't have to ride the bus. And the blessing comes just at the right time. We're starting in our winter months now, and the cold weather's coming upon us, and I just feel truly, truly blessed. And throughout this blessing, I just want to encourage others and just share the word. And through all the trials and tribulations, and which I know that more is going to be on its way, but then now I just know that within myself and with the Lord, through His grace, that I can get through all trials and tribulations. And for anyone out there, it's just so worth the journey. So worth the journey to have a relationship with the Lord.
So you've got somebody who created their own personal little bit of compression. I'm going to give my car away. And identified a little bit with Jesus' death so that his life would be lived, and give some life to Judy. And then I love how she just acknowledges trials and tribulations, our term today, compression. There's just compression in my life. But then she goes, it's worth it. But the reason she can say it's worth it is because that compression just didn't sit there and compress. There's an explosion that she uses a good word, grace, the favor of God on her life. And now that creates some movement. And now she's living the life that Jesus wants her to live. And she now gets to be a blessing to somebody else. And just as she is to us right there, kind of exhorting us in that. And so for the sake of the movement, for the sake of that kind of thing, just growing exponentially in our midst, I'm asking you to sacrifice a little bit and to be generous. I'm asking you to jump into this rig, turn a key and get that motor running. That this is a movement that God wants to do in us, but there needs to be some internal combustion first. Like, we all are responsible for that. It's a very personal deal, that there would be internal combustion in your own life. The intake of the gospel, of receiving the gospel of Jesus Christ, his death on the cross for your sins. And then your surrender to him as the authority of your life. And so now you're following his leadership rather than your own. Knowing that there's compression, constantly compression, different times, different intensities, different amounts of pressure, but there's compression. But that can be something that's used powerfully when you identify that Jesus' gospel ignites that compression. There is this identification with Jesus and his death when you experience suffering. And then as you go through that with that positive, graceful attitude, impurities and immaturity come blown out of your life. And now there's movement. And now just think about it. When we're all doing it, this thing will hum. And so I'm asking you to be generous. I'm asking you to figure out a way that you can actually do a little self-induced compression, self-deny a little bit, figure out a way to be generous over 3 years. Identify with Christ's death a little bit more, but think of the life that's going to be in you and the life that you're going to give to people that you haven't even met yet as this church rolls forward. That's what I'm asking you to be a part of. All right, let us pray, and then we're going to sing to close today.